Okay, so Amazon S3 Vectors is now out in preview, but what does that mean for the solutions that you're building when it comes to agent-based workflows or agent-based use cases, maybe AI inference, maybe a semantic search? What does that mean for you as a company, as an organization? So let's break this down. Now, we know that to give AI agents or some LLM access to your organization's data to give you a context-aware response, we need to have that data encoded into vectors. So let's actually break this down from the start. So we have our documents, and these could be coming from an SAP system, they could be coming from a database, they could be coming from your own data lakes, for example. So we have our docs, and we're just going to drop this in down here. And then what we do is to encode these into high velocity vectors or vectors, we run these through embeddings models like the Titans embeddings model. So let's just drop that in here. So we're going to draw in our embeddings model. Now remember, the purpose of this embeddings model, like the Titan embeddings model, is to encode the data based on relationships and so on. So the closer the vectors are together, the most likely they are related. Could be images, could be text, it could be anything along those lines. And once we do that, we need to store this information somewhere. So this is my embeddings model. I'm just going to say E model. So this is my E model that does the actual encoding into high velocity vectors from our data. So, and then what happens is we actually have our vectors generated like this. So we've got this doc, and this is our vectors. We need to store this vector somewhere, these vectors somewhere. And the question is where do we store them? So usually you would use a vector database like Amazon's OpenSearch vector store, or SAP's HANA's vector store, or even Pinecone DB, which is in the AWS marketplace. But now you have the option of actually storing these in Amazon S3 vectors. Okay, so let's actually start to break this down. So we have now the option of storing our vectors in Amazon S3 vectors, and there's actually a new bucket type that's been introduced. So let me just draw that in for you guys. So this is a vector bucket now available in preview as part of Amazon S3 vectors, and the vector bucket has a key number of benefits. And as I draw this out, I'm going to start talking about the benefits. So remember, S3 durability, scalability, elasticity we're talking about. We're gaining all those benefits from S3 with this vector bucket being part of the S3 feature set. We're talking about huge cost savings. So let's just quantify that for you. From an S3 vector bucket perspective, we're talking up to 90% cost savings compared to other vector stores, from uploading your data, storing your data, and actually querying your data. And that's huge when you think about it from an agentic AI based use case. The cost savings in actually giving agents access to the data that they need, or even a chat assistant, for example, is a game changer in my opinion. That level of cost savings will also bring other use cases into play that may not have been financially or cost effective in terms of viability, but having up to a 90% cost saving for your data, for your vectors being stored in S3, Amazon S3 vectors. And we're talking subquery, talking about subquery speeds and stuff. So it will be sufficient for many different types of use cases going forward. The other thing to point out here is once you have your data in a vector bucket, you would then set up the indexes for that vector bucket. So you could have up to 10,000 indexes per bucket, which is huge again. And then from that perspective, you would also then have up to tens of millions of vectors per index. So we're talking super large volumes, durability, elasticity, up to 90% savings in cost of using Amazon S3 vectors. And this is just our vectors themselves. And then from that point onwards, you would that would go on to whatever that use case is. It may be an agent requesting that information. It may be an LLM as part of an assistant. It may be a semantic search. But your data is now stored in Amazon S3 vectors, with up to a 90% cost savings, and bringing lots of different use cases into play that may not have been financially or cost effective enough for you to actually go ahead and build. Super cool, right? Now, where is Amazon S3 vectors integrated at this point in time? Now, remember, this is currently in preview. available in specific regions globally, and I'll name those out in a minute. But let's actually look at where and how this is already integrated for you to currently use under preview. So you can see I've got my vector data, I've got my vector bucket, and I've got my S3 vector indexes set up. Now these are natively integrated into Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases. So let's actually draw that in. So you can actually go in and build out a knowledge base and select an S3 vector store as your vector store. You could previously select your own third-party one like Pinecone DB, or you could ask the knowledge base to actually create you a vector store, and it would use Amazon's OpenSearch vector store, right? But in this case, we now have the option of utilizing the S3 vector store or the S3 vector bucket as part of Bedrock knowledge bases. So this is going to be our knowledge base. We're just going to call it in KB. And what that does is, as you know, that's already accessible as part of Amazon Bedrock. So any LLM query that's going through Bedrock, for example, it could be any LLM, for example, it could be an Amazon Nova model, it could be an Anthropic Claude model, for example, would be able to access that knowledge base where our vectors are now being stored in Amazon S3 vectors in a vector bucket, as I stated before. So here's our Bedrock, fully natively integrated, as you know. The knowledge base feature lives within Bedrock as well. And again, all of this is accessible via APIs, just like Bedrock is. You can even, there are specialized APIs just for the Amazon S3 vector bucket to access, store, and query that data if you needed to from outside of these current integrations. So let's just put Bedrock in here. And because knowledge bases are natively integrated with Amazon S3 Vector Store, that also brings into play things like Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio. So that would also be able to access that knowledge store going forward. I'll just quickly sketch this in roughly, but you get the picture, right? So there's already lots of integrations available. Currently under preview, as I mentioned. So we'll just put SageMaker in here. SageMaker, and that would be accessed like that, would have access to the knowledge base, and the vector store would actually go into the knowledge base like this. In addition to that, the Amazon OpenSearch service has access to the vector store as well. And if we look at that in a bit more detail, for example, we can see that we'll just draw this. Actually, let's just draw this in first. So we have our little search magnifying glass. We're just going to draw your iconography in for you, so you know this is the Amazon OpenSearch service, which has access to S3 vectors and that vector bucket. It will go via collections and so on, but you're getting the picture, right? So OpenSearch. Now, when it comes to OpenSearch or the OpenSearch service, it has its own vector store. Remember that the knowledge base is used to automatically deploy the Amazon OpenSearch vector store when you were deploying that knowledge base if you didn't provide it with one. But now what you can do is infrequently access vectors can be stored in the S3 vector bucket, for example, for cost optimization. Anything that requires real-time access or low latency, you can move that into the OpenSearch vector store as well, super quickly and super easily. But there we go. So it's how it plays out right now, and everything is accessible via APIs, as I mentioned, and fully natively integrated. There you go. So just a quick summary. We've talked about this new feature, S3 vector store, Amazon S3 vector store, the new bucket type, which is a vector bucket. We're getting the durability, the elasticity of S3. We're also gaining up to 90% cost savings from uploading and storing our data in an S3 vector bucket. We're talking sub-second queries. We're fully natively integrated with Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases and Bedrock and Amazon Bedrock itself, as you would expect, SageMaker Unified Studio, and Amazon OpenSearch service as well. Hope you enjoyed that on this new service or new storage type, a new bucket type that's now available for you via S3, Amazon S3 vectors. Please check out a blog by one of our principal developer advocates. His name is Channy. I'm going to post you the link. Check out his blog. He talks about this, but he also provides you more detailed instructions on how you can actually set this up within the knowledge base, and screenshots and walkthroughs on how you configure this and set this up going forward. If you love the channel, make sure you subscribe. If you're on my LinkedIn, make sure you hit that follow button and hit the like button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.